Beneath the surface of history lies a tale of unimaginable struggle, resilience, and loss. What truly transpired during the transatlantic slave trade? Join us as we uncover the hidden truths and reveal the stories that shaped the continent. In the late 15th century, a new era of exploration began as European powers sought wealth beyond their shores. It was an age defined by ambition, marked by the discovery of new lands and the insatiable hunger for resources. To the indigenous peoples of Africa, the arrival of Europeans foreshadowed a future filled with turmoil. The Portuguese were the first to venture down the African coast, establishing trade routes that would later evolve into the infamous slave trade. These early explorers brought with them not just goods, but a radically different worldview, one centered on exploitation. The rich resources of Africa became a target for European nations, leading to the cruel practice of capturing and trading human lives. Hidden beneath the surface of commerce was a dark reality. The European desire for cheap labor drove them to view Africans as mere commodities. As the Portuguese returned home with gold and ivory, whispers of human trafficking began to emerge, setting the stage for a tragedy that would last centuries. By the early 16th century, the demand for labor in the New World reached a critical point. The European colonies, particularly in the Caribbean and South America, required vast numbers of workers to cultivate sugar, tobacco, and other lucrative crops. Initially, indigenous populations were exploited, but due to disease and harsh treatment, their numbers dwindled. The solution? The transatlantic slave trade. By the 1600s, the enslavement of Africans became a systematic process. Men, women, and children were captured, often through violent raids or deceitful agreements. They were marched to the coast, shackled and vulnerable, where they would await their fates in the holds of ships bound for the Americas. The horror of the Middle Passage was unimaginable. Packed tightly, suffering from disease and starvation, many perished before reaching land. Those who survived would be sold at markets, stripped of their identities, languages, and cultures, forced into lives of unimaginable hardship. This was the birth of a trade that would uproot millions and scar generations. The journey across the Atlantic, known as the Middle Passage, was a brutal experience that forever altered the lives of countless individuals. Ships were often overcrowded, with people chained together in inhumane conditions. The stench of sweat, vomit, and despair filled the air as the captives endured weeks of confinement. Many succumbed to illness or despair, their lives extinguished before they could even glimpse the shores of their new home. Survivors arrived in the Americas traumatized, stripped of their humanity. They were auctioned, sold into bondage, and forced into grueling labor under the harshest conditions imaginable. Families were torn apart, languages lost, and traditions erased in the brutal machinery of slavery. Yet, in their suffering, resilience emerged. Despite the dehumanization, enslaved individuals created communities, preserving fragments of their heritage, forging bonds of solidarity, and even engaging in acts of resistance. This spirit of survival would become a defining characteristic of the African diaspora, as the echoes of their ancestors' pain reverberated through generations. Upon arrival, enslaved Africans faced an entirely new reality: life on the plantation. The sprawling estates were scenes of both labor and suffering, where the promise of freedom was nothing more than a cruel mirage. Men and women toiled from dawn until dusk under the watchful eyes of overseers, their bodies pushed to the brink. Yet, amid the brutality, they found ways to resist and maintain their cultural identity. Through music, dance, and storytelling, they held on to their roots, weaving a tapestry of resilience. Life was a constant struggle, but within the confines of their existence, hope flickered. Marriages were formed, families built, and traditions shared, creating a sense of community even in the face of oppression. As enslaved people navigated this harsh reality, they also devised subtle forms of rebellion: work slowdowns, sabotage, and runaways. The fight for freedom began not just as a dream, but as an everyday act of defiance against an unjust system, igniting sparks of resistance that would eventually lead to larger uprisings. Resistance took many forms, both subtle and overt, as enslaved Africans sought to reclaim their humanity and assert their rights. Some organized revolts, risking their lives for a chance at freedom. In 1791, the Haitian Revolution erupted, led by Toussaint Louverture, challenging the very foundations of slavery in the Americas. This monumental uprising sent shockwaves through slaveholding societies, instilling fear and inspiring others. Many enslaved people in the United States looked to Haiti as a beacon of hope. Meanwhile, underground networks like the Underground Railroad began to take shape, helping those fleeing bondage find a path to freedom. Figures such as Harriet Tubman became symbols of courage, guiding others to safety with unwavering determination. Each act of resistance, whether a large-scale rebellion or a quiet refusal to submit, helped fuel a growing movement against slavery. As the struggle intensified, abolitionist voices grew louder, challenging the morality of the system and demanding lasting change. If you find stories like this powerful and want to keep exploring more moments in history that shaped our world, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next one. The abolitionist movement gained momentum in the 19th century, driven by moral outrage against the institution of slavery. Individuals from various backgrounds, including freed African Americans, white allies, and religious leaders, joined forces to advocate for an end to slavery. Figures like Frederick Douglass, a former enslaved person turned powerful orator, used their voices to expose the horrors of slavery and fight for justice. As pamphlets circulated and speeches ignited passion, the movement spread across the North, fostering a growing awareness of the injustice that enveloped the nation. In Britain, activists like William Wilberforce rallied public support, leading to the eventual abolition of slavery in the British Empire in 1833. The collaboration between diverse groups marked a significant turning point, uniting people from different backgrounds in the common cause of freedom. Yet, the fight was far from over. Resistance from slaveholders was fierce, and the nation remained deeply divided. As tensions escalated, the question of slavery would become a central issue, leading to the American Civil War. The Civil War erupted in 1861, a conflict fueled by deep-seated divisions over the issue of slavery. As battles raged across the nation, the struggle for freedom intensified. Enslaved individuals seized the opportunity to escape and join Union forces, becoming soldiers in their own fight for liberation. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, declared freedom for enslaved people in rebel states, transforming the war into a moral battle against slavery itself. While the proclamation was a crucial step, it did not immediately end the institution of slavery. The war continued, bloodshed marking the landscape as the fight for freedom reached its climax. The sacrifices made during this period were immense, with countless lives lost on both sides. Yet, the resilience of the enslaved and their allies bore fruit as the 13th Amendment was ratified in 1865, formally abolishing slavery in the United States. Though a monumental victory had been achieved, the journey towards true equality and justice was only just beginning. The post-war era of Reconstruction brought hope for many, yet it was marred by challenges. Newly freed individuals sought to rebuild their lives, and the promise of land and education became central to their aspirations. However, the reality proved to be far more complex. As Southern states implemented black codes, systemic racism reemerged, attempting to suppress the newly acquired rights of African Americans. Violence erupted, with groups like the Ku Klux Klan instilling terror in communities that sought to thrive. Despite these challenges, African Americans persevered, establishing schools, churches, and institutions that laid the groundwork for future generations. The struggle for civil rights continued as they fought for political representation and equal treatment. The Reconstruction era became a testament to resilience, showcasing the strength of a community united in the face of adversity, yet foreshadowing the long road ahead in the quest for equality. The legacy of the transatlantic slave trade is profound, shaping not only the lives of those directly affected, but also the very fabric of societies across the globe. Generations have grappled with the consequences of slavery, from economic disparities to ongoing struggles for racial justice. The echoes of this history resonate, reminding us that the fight for equality is far from over. In contemporary America, issues like systemic racism and social justice movements continue to challenge us to confront our past. The work of historians, activists, and educators plays a vital role in ensuring that the stories of those who suffered are never forgotten. It is the responsibility of all of us to acknowledge this history, to strive for understanding, and to advocate for a future where equity prevails. As we reflect on the past, we must commit ourselves to building a more just society, where the scars of history can transform into pathways toward healing and reconciliation. Understanding the real story behind the transatlantic slave trade is more than a historical inquiry. It is a call to action for all of us. As we engage with this painful chapter of history, we are reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the ongoing fight for justice. It is our duty to educate ourselves, to listen to the voices of those who have been marginalized, and to advocate for systemic change. By confronting the legacies of the past, we not only honor the lives of those who suffered, but also pave the way for a future defined by equality and respect. So, if you found this documentary insightful, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Join us in the important work of remembrance and advocacy, for the journey toward justice requires all of us to stand together. Together, we can forge a path toward a more inclusive society. As we look towards the future, the lessons learned from the transatlantic slave trade must guide our actions. The fight for justice is ongoing, and each of us plays a vital role. Today, movements such as Black Lives Matter highlight systemic inequalities and advocate for change. It is essential for new generations to carry forward the legacy of those who fought before them, ensuring that their struggles are not in vain. In schools, communities, and workplaces, conversations about race and equity must be prioritized. It is only through education, dialogue, and collective action that we can hope to dismantle the systems of oppression that persist. The history of the transatlantic slave trade is not just a story of suffering. It is also a narrative of resilience, strength, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refuse to be silenced. By standing together, we can honor their legacy and work toward a future where everyone can thrive.